Hey guys, welcome to a rainy episode of 0 to 60.
Yep, can't beat the beautiful Sunshine Coast, but it doesn't matter because we're in a 1999 Lexus GS300 with a 2JZ.
I'm excited, Dave. What are we going to do with it?
Well, stick with us because first we're going to take it for a bit of a drive, see how these things handle, see what the power's like, and of course, we'll then see how quickly it does 0 to 100.
Let's get into it.
Let's go.
So we're out in the Lexus GS300 and let's run down on the full specs of this exact vehicle because it's a very honest example.
And that's a good word for it, I would say, at just under 270,000 kilometers currently, and it has been, well,
it's been used.
Yeah.
But it has been looked after as well. Like, it's running really, really well. And to be fair, it's not showing a lot of age. There's a little bit of wear on the center console. Don't think this car's 21 years old today.
One thing I want to quickly note on that we've mentioned in our other Lexus video, the quality of the paint, even for a car that spent a lot of time in this Australian climate outside, the paint still has a brilliant gloss and shine to it.
Yeah, a good depth. And it's weird. We wash a lot of the cars that we film, so it was good to actually to see that on this example.
Yeah, again, just Lexus doing things well.
Definitely. So this is the 1999 model. Something I've only recently found out, Lexus actually didn't exist in Japan, not until the Lexus LFA, which I think was 2010 or 11. So you couldn't buy these in Japan. Well, not as the Lexus GS300, they were the Toyota Aristo.
Which is, well, it's basically the same car, but the cool thing about the Aristo is you could get it with the 2JZ GTE.
The proper engine.
Yeah, to me, that is just such a cool car.
I'm still pretty excited to see how this 2J is going to go. Now, these were rated at 225 horsepower or just under 170 kilowatts and around 330 newton meters of torque, which is a fair number for the 90s.
Yeah, and especially for really, it's a luxury sedan. It's not a race car. And I could be wrong, so please, actually, even if you viewers, you might know these engines better than we do, but from my understanding, the 2JZ GE was really tailored more of a luxury engine, a smooth...
It's not a race engine, and you can feel that with the way that this one's set up. It definitely feels very gentle.
Yeah, well, even when we had the bonnet up before, it's just...
quiet.
So quiet.
Even though it's got those whopping extractors on it, it just makes no noise.
Yeah, it's awesome, whereas the GTE, well, really designed it going fast, and you can just up the boost and get a weapon engine. But speaking of boost, there are still relatively cheap turbo kits for the NA 2Js, aren't there?
Yeah, these are becoming they're cheap. Let's be real. Something like this would be under 5,000 Australian, and it's becoming more common for guys to bolt on those aftermarket turbo kits to the GE motor. And I've seen people getting pretty good power, like upwards of 500 horsepower out of this is pretty damn cool. Like, that's a cheap, I don't know, probably $5,000 investment on top of the car. You're going to be, it's a weapon.
That's definitely going to be the cheapest way to get into a 2J.
Yep.
And then with a cheap turbo kit, that's going to be the cheapest way to have one of the cheapest ways to get to that 500 horsepower mark.
Yes. Now, something I just wanted to touch on, the reason we're doing this video, we've had a few friends recently, and a good friend of ours owns this, which is why he was nice enough to loan it to us. They're buying these as the daily drivers because they're quite cheap. Fuel in Australia is not very expensive, so even though they're not as economical as a more modern vehicle, they're still relatively cheap to run. You expect them to be reliable, and for that sort of price range, it's a bloody nice car, isn't it? It's very, very well appointed.
Just to touch on how nice they are, we're driving at highway speeds at the moment in the rain, which isn't perfect conditions, and it is so smooth. Even at nearly 270,000 kilometers, there is no wobbles through any of the wheels, any of the steering components. It's
just a nice car.
It's still quiet as well, so well sound insulated. So they are nice. And actually, Dylan was saying that the actual owner of this vehicle, their whole family just
all has Lexus.
Lexus.
It's something that we've witnessed with a few other people we know that have Lexuses. They get almost like a cult following. Once you've had one, you're in the group, and that's all they seem to buy. It's interesting. But they all have really good experiences.
That's, not just with the vehicles and the reliability, which they are both reliable and good quality cars, but
the
even
dealers look after
dealer experience. Yeah, they don't seem to get ripped off on parts or bad experience with the servicing, and it'd be interesting to see how much of that is controlled by Lexus Japan or Toyota Japan, whatever you want to call it. But for so many people to become these Lexus diehard fans and just keep renewing their cars with another Lexus is pretty cool to see.
So anyway, what we do on this channel, we time cars on their 0 to 100 times, and we try and get a real world time. It is raining today, which is probably going to hold this back. Dave, what do you think it's going to do on the 0 to 100 run?
Well, it might hold it back a little bit initially, but these are not powerhouses. I think officially they were rated at 8.8 or something, so nearly 9 seconds. That's definitely not a rocket ship for that 0 to 100k sprint.
I think it'll be good to see if we can get it into the 10s today.
So, yeah, to be honest, if it can break 10 seconds, I think that will be phenomenal, especially something that's nearly 9 seconds when it's brand new, now has 270k's on it.
Well, let's go and see what a 2JZ that's done 250,000 kilometres can actually do.
Let's do it. Cool. Well, something to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, is that we do use a V-Box Sport, so it is but also with 0 foot rollout. So there's really it's really as accurate as you can get. A lot of people depend on the speedo, which, believe it or not, car speedos are not accurate, particularly once you get to 100k's an hour.
Normally about 10% optimistic, and a lot of guys rely on rollout with other devices as well, which I think you can program that into the V-Box, but we just ignore it and we go from 0.
Yeah, a true stationary 0 to a true 100 kilometers an hour.
So now we've made all the excuses, let's see how slow this car is.
So, for starters, I'm just going to leave it in D, and not even load it up too much, just, well, a little bit. Say when.
We're ready to go. Oh, wheel spin. Wheel spin city.
Okay, got to be careful.
It's just wheel spinning. Maybe the SC isn't stability control. It revs when you get up. It really sounds good.
Comes alive.
Okay, we're good. 12.3 though.
12.3. I was surprised it span the tyre so much.
It's funny how the characteristics of the engines changed then. That went from being super docile to...
And you actually get some induction roar as well, which I'd not heard a GS300 sound like that.
Wow.
I see why people throw the turbo kits on them now.
I think we might be being a bit optimistic trying to get it to go in this weather. You got power on? We'll go power on.
Power. More so, I don't know if that started in true first gear then.
You can't select first.
Well,
or can you?
It has an interesting box, but I'm going to try. So you go down to L2, and then it's got an L to the left of that. So let's see what that does.
V-Box is ready. Better, awesome. Much better, much better.
To 2, perfect. Then to 3. Keep going.
There we are. 10.7. So you pulled 2 seconds off.
That, to be honest, that felt pretty good.
I don't think it's going to go much quicker.
No, I think in the dry you'll be able to stall it up a little bit more, and not have that initial wheel spin initially.
So for a wet run, that's gone within 2 seconds of its claim time.
That's not too bad, because especially with these kilometers, that gearbox, it went through the gear so much better. One thing that definitely would affect its time is the fact that it wasn't even close to 100k's in second gear, was it?
No, so it is shifting again.
I was ready to shift into third, but I thought it would grab 100 as I hit third, but no, it got into third and kept going.
All right, let's switch these cameras around and we'll have an outro for you guys in 2 seconds. So what do you think?
That was this weird gear selector down here. That was actually quite fun, working your way through that maze as it's going through the RPM range, and yeah, for an automatic, it was quite an involving 0 to 100 run.
Now, before anyone points it out, we do realise that what we've done is pretty pointless in this weather, but we were just curious to see what times it will put down. This car's not on brilliant tyres. They're old Falcons, I think, and they're not performance tyres, they are just economy tyres.
It's also not as pointless as it may sound, because we have a friend, Nicholas Carmen, who actually bought one of these cars because he wanted a luxurious sports car.
Yes. So
people do buy them, and I've got to say again, the engine does come alive. It sounds great.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised. The shifts are still lazy.
Yes. I mean, it's not an aggressive motor, but you do get that noise.
Whoa, was that 300? Oh, no,
it's nearly at 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, to be fair, I think, damn, we just like all these cars. Have you noticed that?
Well,
we're not going to video something we don't like, are we?
Exactly. And at the end of the day, back in 1999, this was a pretty serious car. It had a lot of technology, very, very luxurious.
Well, I think not that long ago, they were still quite expensive.
And still quite luxurious.
Yeah. I think if anyone's looking at one of these, you don't need to be too careful as a pre-purchase inspection. Get it basically checked over. You should be able to check that yourself. And
if nothing's bent or rusty underneath,
and everything works, you're probably going to have a pretty good run with it.
Yeah.
No, they're not the most economical things, but damn, they're nice to drive. I wouldn't hesitate to get in this and drive to Sydney.
oh my, 100%, it'd be brilliant for that.
Yep.
Especially when it's not raining, it would be so quiet and comfortable. Even this gauge cluster, it's pretty unique. I don't know what that's called.
2 words that I can't remember, but it sounded like something from Star Trek.
Tron.
Tronovision,
Megatron.
Transformers into sky.
Whatever it is, it's pretty cool. It gives a nice luminescent glow all the time.
Yeah, and even having real wood in a car is a nice change. That's actually a chunk of wood.
And that's a Lexus touch, isn't it? You don't get that in a Toyota.
All right, guys, that's probably going to sum it up.
All in all, not too bad.
thumbs up.
Yeah, to get it 10 seconds, that's not bad.
No, especially in the wet. And that first run where you're a little bit more aggressive, it spun for a long time.
Yeah, look, I reckon Dylan should buy this when they're ready to sell it
And turbo it.
throw an eBay turbo kit on it, because that would be so much fun.
It's a budget Aristo.
Yeah.
And Aristos in Australia, they fetch between 10 to sort of 20 grand, depending on how tight they are. So these are a fair bit cheaper. No, they don't have the turbo motor, but it's an option.
Yeah, true. Something to keep in mind, guys.
Well, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.